Very good evening. Welcome to State of Business on our television. I'm Ashing Sunny Veerasinghe. Let's have a look at the headlines for today. 2 new state ministers and 3 governors appointed today. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe states that the Democratic National Front alliance would be formed before the end of August. News in detail. President Maithripala Sirisena announced today that the Attorney General informed him that the private member's motion, which was presented in the Parliament seeking to abolish the death penalty, is illegal. Meanwhile, 2 new state ministers were sworn in before President Maithripala Sirisena at the President's official residence this morning.
Accordingly, parliamentarian Anoma Gamage, who was serving as acting Minister of Petroleum Resources, Highways and Road Development, was appointed the State Minister of Petroleum Resources Development. Parliamentarian Lucky Jayawardena, who was serving as acting Minister of City Planning, Water Supply and Higher Education, was appointed the State Minister of the same ministry. Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena also appointed new governors for 3 provinces. Accordingly, former Central Province Governor, Attorney at Law Maitri Gunaratne was appointed as the Governor of the Uva Province. Former Governor for the Southern Province, Kirti Tennakon, was appointed as the Governor of the Central Province. Meanwhile, Hemal Gunasekara was appointed as the Governor of the Southern Province.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the Democratic National Front alliance would be formed before the end of August, targeting the presidential and parliamentary elections. Issuing a special statement to the media, Premier Wickremesinghe said that the launch of the proposed alliance was delayed a bit.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe noted that several suggestions were put forward during the final round of talks of the United National Party-led alliance, and accordingly the launch of the alliance was delayed for a shorter period. He explained that the alliance would compromise political parties and organizations, preserving the identity and the independence of all the affiliating parties. Highlighting the fact that UNP needs to win the presidential elections through a UNP-led alliance, the Prime Minister also observed that an alliance was necessary since a single party could not win the presidential polls alone according to the current trend of politics. He also added that the alliance, which is to be formed before the end of this month, would contest at the upcoming parliamentary elections as well. The signing of Memorandum of Understanding to form an alliance between the UNP and other political parties were due for today. However, the UNP yesterday announced that it was postponed as they need to finalize some documents.
Issuing a statement yesterday, Ministry of Defence of Sri Lanka stated that the government took all necessary security measures to ensure the security of the country and the safety of the people following the April bombings.
The U.S. Embassy issued a travel advisory on the 2nd of August reminding American citizens of the current Level 2 travel advisory of exercise increased caution in respect to the significant holidays and large public events of Sri Lanka. It further states that terrorists may attack with little or no warning, targeting tourist locations, transportation hubs, markets, shopping malls, government facilities, hotels, clubs, restaurants, places of worship, parks, major sporting and cultural events, educational institutions, airports, hospitals, and other public areas. Against this backdrop, Ministry of Defence of Sri Lanka issued a statement yesterday concerning the fear and the stir that had erupted in the community of Sri Lanka. The statement stated the government took all necessary security measures to ensure the security of the country, and special island-wide precautionary measures have been taken by the tri-forces, police and intelligence services together with other state security agencies to deliver protection to places of worship, public places, tourist locations, state facilities, airports, ports, hospitals, etc. Subsequently, the statement further informed that most suspects connected with the Easter bombings were arrested and their safe houses were raided, and that the security forces and police will not in any way compromise on public security of all Sri Lankans as well as any foreign national visiting the country. The statement further reiterated that despite the travel advisory issued by the US Embassy, which has increased its travel warnings as a routine measure, asking its citizens to take extra care during their travel in the holiday season. The security of the country remains to be safe and secure. The statement also asserted that anyone who wishes to visit Sri Lanka may do so without fear.
Stating that security has been tightened at key installations in Sri Lanka, Singapore has relaxed its travel advisory on Sri Lanka from defer all non-essential travels to exercise caution.
Accordingly, Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Singapore claims that since the Easter Sunday attacks in April, there have been no further major security incidents in Sri Lanka and that the security has been tightened at key installations including places of worship, tourist locations and airports. However, noting that still the risk of terrorist cells existing and the state of emergency remains are in force, Singaporeans traveling to Sri Lanka are advised to exercise caution by the Singaporean government. Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Singapore requests the Singaporeans who are already in Sri Lanka to stay vigilant and take all necessary precautions for their personal safety, including monitoring the news closely and heeding the instructions of the local authorities. They are also asked to avoid public places where there are large gatherings of people and to stay in touch with their family and friends so that they know the person is safe.
Stay tuned for more news after this short break. Welcome back after the break. Sri Lankan Airlines, issuing a statement yesterday, said it has made preparations to minimize inconvenience to its valued passengers at London's Heathrow Airport that may occur due to the strike action plan by ground staff of Heathrow Airport Limited on the 5th and 6th of August.
Sri Lankan Airlines further state that it does not envisage any cancellation of its flights at this time and will operate as per its regular schedule. The flag carrier of Sri Lanka has reinforced its own operations for passengers and cargo at both the arrival and departure terminals of Heathrow with additional employees on standby. However, the areas most likely to be affected include security screening, which are operated by Heathrow and do not come under the purview of Sri Lankan. Sri Lankan Airlines further noted that it regrets any inconvenience to its valued passengers due to circumstances that are entirely beyond its control and will do everything in its power to minimize this inconvenience.
Bringing Dr. N.M. Pereira's idea that if the President and the Prime Minister belong to two political parties, it would lead to a complete deadlock in the governance. Former Ambassador and the Permanent Representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations, Attorney at Law D.L. Mendes states that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution has not addressed this issue and thus the present political crisis has erupted. He made these claims on last Wednesday while addressing a seminar on the 19th Amendment organized by the West End Law Centre at Colombo.
If the President and the Prime Minister belong to two different political parties, it can lead to a piquant situation. I remember checking what the word piquant is. It's a sour situation, sort of a situation where the two don't look at each other, and complete deadlock in the functioning of the government. It has happened in 2003. It is happening now and will happen, likely to happen again, unless the relevant provisions dealing with President and Parliament, Prime Minister are well regulated in the Constitution. It was not done by the 19th Amendment. Had it been done, probably things would have been little more smooth sailing.
Addressing the seminar on the 19th Amendment organized by the West End Law Centre at Colombo, former Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Justice and Professor of Law at University of Hong Kong, Nihal Jaivikrama stresses that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution should not be repealed.
I was given two questions. Should the 19th Amendment be repealed? Should the 19th Amendment be amended? So I'll deal with those two questions. The first question, should the 19th Amendment be repealed? My simple answer is no. Clearly, no. Quite emphatically, no. The 19th Amendment was a very significant first step towards restoring the parliamentary executive system of government, which had served this country well for nearly 30 years since independence. The restoration of the parliamentary executive was a commitment that was made first by the SLFP in 1978 itself and thereafter repeated by the SLFP and by the left parties at every presidential and parliamentary election, and now in more recent times by the UNP as well. Some, of course, claim that the conflict in the north and east could not have been brought to an end except by an executive president. Yet, we have to remember that it was under an executive president that that conflict began.
Foreign Minister Tilak Marapana calls for better cooperation to combat regional security challenges, including traditional and non-traditional security concerns such as terrorism, violent extremism and cybercrime. Minister made these calls for cooperation at the 26th session of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Regional Forum held on the 2nd August 2019 in Bangkok. Speaking at the 26th session of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Regional Forum, Minister Marapana highlighted the need for a deepened resolve among the ASEAN Regional Forum participants to overcome the security challenges. The 26th ASEAN Regional Forum focused on expanding confidence-building measures and enhancing cooperation in areas such as the anti-terrorism effort, strengthening the nuclear non-proliferation regime, preventive diplomacy, countering violent terrorism, promoting women, peace and security, and ensuring the secure use of information and communication technologies. Furthermore, the meeting condemned multifaceted acts of terrorism, including the Easter Sunday attacks in Sri Lanka and the recent acts of violence in New Zealand and Philippines. While in attendance at the forum, Minister Marapana also conducted bilateral meetings with Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, A.K. Abdul Momen, Minister of External Affairs of India, S. Jaishankar, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of New Zealand, Winston Peters, and High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, Federica Mogherini, on the sidelines of the ASEAN Regional Forum. Stay tuned for the stock updates after this short break. Welcome back after the break. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 5.03 points to close at 5,889.67 and the S&P SL 20 dropped 10.16 points to close at 2,896.52. The turnover was 534 million rupees and over 36 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. That's all the news for today. Join us tomorrow at the same time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.